What's going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal, Spaz Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check, and this is it, the quintessential end of the road, the last episode of Road Signs. This is going to be the official Road Signs 2014 Pre-Wrestlemania Q&A, and then part 2 of this video is going to be my WrestleMania 30 predictions. This might be a video cut in 2 parts. We'll see what I feel like after answering all these questions. And guys, I gotta say, I might not have the best rate of interaction on this channel of a lot of other people out there. A lot of people with a lot more subs than me get a lot more interaction on their videos. But the one thing I will say for all of you guys, and I love you guys for this, I don't do Q&As that often. I haven't done one since the Royal Rumble. When I do a Q&A, my loyals, the guys that have been following me for a good long while, and a few new faces, do come out loud and proud with questions for the Q&A, and I really appreciate it. So without further ado, in the immortal words of Aaron Rift, let's get down to some of your questions. Jordy Jordan, very simple question, and I love that it's the first question of the Q&A. Do you think there should be a match from NXT on WrestleMania? Absolutely. There needs to be either a rivalry like a Graves, what the hell's his name? Graves versus Sami Zayn, what's going on in NXT right now, with a little bit of story behind it. Not that it's going to steal the show, but something with a little bit of a story behind it, like Graves and Zayn has right now. Represent one of your titles. Have, if Emma wasn't in the battle, Andre Battle Royal, I would say having a rematch from NXT Arrival at WrestleMania between Paige and Emma. That would be fantastic. Or have one of your stars from NXT that's about to make the jump to the main roster have a match against somebody on the main roster, like you had with Sami Zayn versus I don't want to say Antonio, but Cesaro. Again, another example from NXT Arrival. You need to do something to make NXT big. They are starting to push NXT big now because it's on the network and they want people to buy the network. But here's the thing. NXT was created so that WWE would have a supplement for what indie wrestling used to be. Indie wrestling, you take guys like Dean Ambrose, and if you want to treat TNA like an indie company, take somebody like an AJ Styles or a Kazarian. They could enter the WWE with big hype because even though they were new to the WWE roster, people would already know who they are. People already knew who Dean Ambrose was, even though he never touched NXT, at least the televised NXT. If people... if AJ Lee, or no, not AJ Lee, AJ Styles, sorry, or Kazarian, or Christopher Daniels, or Samoa Joe debuted in WWE, WWE wouldn't even have to really promote their arrival because they are already well-known names because of TNA. The problem being, stars being well-known from ROH, or stars being well-known because of their work in TNA, or organizations like that, will be thought of already as big names because a main event in TNA is all that's going on. The problem with NXT is it's still treated like this minor thing that the WWE does. TNA will treat their World Heavyweight Championship match like a World Heavyweight Championship match. The NXT title on NXT will be treated like the main title, but in the realm of the whole WWE scope as a whole, it won't be treated as a world title on the same level as the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, as it shouldn't, because it is their sort of rookie division. But NXT needs to branch out even further, separate itself from the WWE, even though it's a WWE product, and treat itself like even more of a big deal than it already has. It's come leaps and bounds from the original NXT concept, which was that sort of elimination reality show bullshit. They made another big step coming onto the network. They made another big step with the NXT Arrival special. They need to keep forging their own path as their own entity, rather than this little brother section of the WWE. If they can do that, that'll be fine, but if they are going to do that, WWE either needs to give them their own proper pay-per-views or give them some exposure on a regular WWE pay-per-view. And please resist the urge. If WWE ever does do this, I know the first foremost urge of the WWE would be to put the NXT match on the pre-show, which would be bad because it would only reinforce the idea that NXT isn't really a big deal, because honestly, how many people watch the pre-show? Pre-show for WrestleMania is going to be 2 hours long, which makes WrestleMania 6 hours. Is anybody else baffled by that, or is that just me? Anyways, thank you for your question. Michael Schult, guys, you guys know by now when I try to do a Q&A, when I try to do anything interactive, I will butcher names. I'm apologizing for that in advance. Ask me 3 questions. When do you think Alexander Rusev will debut in the ring? I don't have a specific date in mind. My answer for this is going to be when WWE has something for him to do. I hope they go something a little less cookie cutter than, okay, he's a big guy, so we'll have him attack the Big Show. I think if you brought him in and he did like a Rusev Open Challenge and he was answered by this this new gimmick that they're doing with Brodus Clay. Apparently they're trying to make Brodus Clay like a serious badass again. I think those guys, a new character and a reimagined character feuding, building each other up at the same time, could be great. He did a great job in the Rumble. That was a first little peek into what he can do. I'm sure he's going to be in one of the mystery spots in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, which I'll talk about later on. If that's the case, let him go in there and make another good showing. I don't want him to win, for sure, because that would be a little bit of a hot shot for him to win such a prestigious memorial thing at WrestleMania, and we see how much hot shotting worked for Fandango with the Jericho match last year, do we not? Next one I can't really answer. The next one is, what are your favorite sports teams? NHL, MLB, NBA, NFL, etc. I don't really watch any other sports. I object to the Olympics on principles, and if you guys really want to know my thoughts on that, put it down in the box below. I'll do a little blurb at some point about why I object to the Olympics. As a whole, A, I don't care, B, there's a lot of problems I have with them. But as far as NHL, MLB, NBA, it's the same reason I don't watch UFC. I've watched so much wrestling in my life, and there's so much more that can happen in the realm of wrestling that all the other ones are real, which is boring to me. I'm sorry. I used to play soccer. I used to play baseball. I used to do a lot of things, but I really couldn't be bothered. Toronto Maple Leafs, I don't follow them. Apparently they suck a lot on the continuous. Blue Jays, same. I don't even live in Toronto. Anybody outside of like sort of the immediate Ontario, Canada area, if I tell them I live in Brampton, nobody knows where the hell that is. But it's kind of outside Toronto, which I guess is a reason why I should cheer for the Toronto teams, because they're the... sorry, my chair is doing fucked up shit, guys. If you see me shuffling back and forth, it's because my chair is about to fall apart, and that could be a great blooper for this video if it happens. Could it not? I don't care. Brampton doesn't have any major teams. Even if they did, I still wouldn't care, because I don't care about baseball or hockey or anything. I watch wrestling. I'm a wrestling fan. I appreciate the question. I just don't really have an answer for you. Do you think Bray Wyatt versus John Cena will be better than Bray Wyatt versus Daniel Bryan at the Royal Rumble? Yes, actually. I really do. Not that it will be a better technical match, because obviously John Cena is not Daniel Bryan. It will get more time. It will be made to feel more important. It will have the John Cena spotlight shone upon it, so Bray Wyatt will have even more of a chance to shine. Whatever you want to call what Bray Wyatt is will be allowed to flourish because it is basking in the John Cena spotlight. I've been saying in my past couple of videos, I still don't like John Cena. Everything I said years ago in the Cena Apocalypse videos is still true. But in this case, he's not in the main event. He's not in the title picture. He's working with a younger talent, which you never really would have predicted. I would not have predicted until he was attacked by Bray Wyatt that Bray Wyatt would be John Cena's opponent at WrestleMania. For the longest time, we thought John Cena versus The Undertaker was going to be a thing, and then we were going to worry that WWE was stupid enough to hand him the streak. I think it's fantastic. I think WWE tries to get as much out of John Cena as they can, which is, you know, is a thing. But it means by association, they're getting as much as they possibly can, or they're getting as much as they can possibly show out of whoever John Cena is in the ring with. See Daniel Bryan, see CM Punk, see Dolph Ziggler. Now, Cena squashed most of them. It is absolutely true. But they got more a chance than usual to show what they can do before the steamroller came along. All this stuff about John Cena and his legacy, the fact that the Wyatt family are not involved in the tag team title picture at WrestleMania, the legitimate thought, you know, against logic that I have, that Bray Wyatt could actually win this, and it's not It's not the typical John Cena formula. It's not just, I want Bray Wyatt to win so that John Cena lost, like it was with The Rock, for example. It's, no, I want Bray Wyatt to win because he really deserves it. It could be a really great moment. He is the perfect foil for John Cena. John Cena goes out there and preaches, you know, his code of morals, his code of ethics and whatever, and Bray Wyatt is basically out to prove him a liar. And it's fantastic. There's so much more story into it. Whereas when Bray Wyatt was trying to recruit Daniel Bryan, he was just saying, oh, you're the same as me, we're going to recruit you, we're going to recruit you, we're going to recruit you, or we're going to beat the crap out of you. Bray Wyatt has come out very plainly in what has been some amazing promo work, saying, I want to destroy John Cena. So it's very much like Punk Undertaker, in the sense that Punk didn't necessarily want to beat The Undertaker. He would have been just as happy if Undertaker got pissed off enough to get himself disqualified just so he could say he could beat the streak. Bray Wyatt is coming at this from a perspective of, I don't necessarily have to beat you. I don't necessarily need a submission or a pinfall victory over you as long as I get to destroy you and what you are. And that is great, because even if there's so many scenarios, and I'm going to talk about this more in my preview, obviously, there's so many scenarios where Bray Wyatt in this match, even if he loses, could still come out the winner because of the psychology that's gone into it. That, and Bray Wyatt's just a fucking beast, and to see him go, and he'll probably get a good 20 minutes, because it's John Cena's spotlight, he will have a lot of opportunity to show what he can do, and if the Wyatt family gets involved, they can show what they do. They are a great team. I'm not particularly a fan of huge guys. You guys know this. The Wyatt family are obvious exceptions to this rule. So, yes, not that I think John Cena is better than Daniel Bryan. Let me be clear on that. I think because he's facing John Cena, Bray Wyatt himself will have an opportunity to put on a hell of a better match. Thank you for those questions, Michael. Shan815, who has contributed to so many of my Q&As, has sent me 10 questions. Fantastic. Do you think WrestleMania should be held outside the US again within the next 2 to 4 years? Yes, I think WrestleMania should come back to Toronto so that I can see it. And relive Rock versus Hogan in the Skydome in Toronto. That's me being selfish. Seriously, I know there's a lot of people that think wrestling should happen in the UK again, which is fine. I know they have great fans there. Here is the reality check on that, and I'm not even being sarcastic when I say this. The time zone difference will fuck them. The time zone difference will fuck them, because the Americans, or the North Americans, or however you want to phrase it, WWE is an American company. They're going to want to stay on the American clock. And 8 p.m. on a Sunday in the US, in Canada, whatever, I don't know what time that is in the UK now. Is that ridiculous o'clock in the morning, or is it like lunchtime? They're not going to do it. Or they're definitely not going to tape WrestleMania in the UK and play it at an appropriate time in the US, because the spoilers for WrestleMania would run rampant and nobody would buy the show unless it was ridiculously good wrestling. If you built an entire WrestleMania not on what was going to happen, but just on the fact that you were going to get good matches, like if you had a card that consisted of Angle versus Benoit, Punk versus Bryan, you know, resurrected Hardys versus Edge and Christian, all the matches that everybody wants to see again just for the match quality, it could happen. But they're not going to do it, because either way, it's not going to fit WWE's time frame, which is, I'm sorry, a North American time frame. Should they? Yeah, it's pretty easy to say that they should. They are the world wrestling entertainment. They are not, you know, North America wrestling entertainment, and I understand that. And trust me, I'm in Canada, and we haven't gotten a pay-per-view up here in a long time either, and we're like their neighbor to the north. I wish they would spread out more. Even SummerSlam. SummerSlam's been in LA for the past, what, 6 years in the Staples Center. Now, I'm not going to say anything about LA. I'm not going to say anything about the Staples Center, but a little bit of diversity is good. WrestleMania, they're not going to take a gamble like that. I can pretty much guarantee it. What bands and artists would you like to see perform at WrestleMania? Oh, man. Linkin Park, Disturbed, Hailstorm, The Pretty Reckless, Buck Cherry, Papa Roach. Wouldn't mind Metallica. You know, shout out to Preston of Wrestling Paradise for the Metallica reference. Other than that, whatever fits. Like, I can't stand Eminem, but the legacy song that they're using for the Wyatt Cena match, I can forgive it because it makes sense. And I listen to some of the lyrics and it makes sense with how crazy Bray Wyatt is. So I don't know. Whoever they can get is another thing too. I wouldn't mind seeing Limp Bizkit again, honestly. I wouldn't mind seeing Saliva or Drowning Pool again. Kid Rock could be cool. Apparently the guys that perform Bray Wyatt's theme song are going to be performing live at WrestleMania. Apparently, that's just a rumor that I've heard. Don't quote me on it. You know, it's dirt sheets for whatever they're worth. But yeah, there's some people. Evanescence would be another one. I don't know. I'm not a particular fan of them, but somebody suggested to me Slipknot recently. I'm pretty sure they could add something to the show, but they're not something that I'm going to see because of who they are. Does that make sense? Wrestling needs rock. Is what I'm gonna add to this. Rap or pop or electronica or country or stuff like that, it doesn't really fit. It doesn't really work. It's not a party. It's guys that want to kick the shit out of each other. You need something aggressive behind that. I'm not saying death metal or black metal because I don't listen to that shit. But give me some good rock. When you had what the hell was it? For Whom the Bell Tolls involved in the Undertaker's themes, for example. Use music that makes sense. Use music that has a theme that is in continuity with the themes that you're trying to. Sorry guys, itchy nose as usual. In continuity with. I lost my train of thought entirely. In continuity with the story that you're trying to tell. That's what I'm going. But yeah, there's a few. We all know the December to Dismember 2006 was a flop. But what are your thoughts on the Extreme Elimination Chamber concept? Now that's interesting because if you take the Extreme Elimination Chamber concept and included like the Hardys, the Dudleys, and Edge and Christian, you could have a TLC match in the Elimination Chamber, couldn't you? It all depends on what the psychology of the match is. For a hardcore match, there's a difference between a good, well thought out psychological hardcore match and two guys just having a no rules match and hitting each other with stuff. My answer for that, the concept has potential. The potential would have to be realized by very carefully picking what the weapons were, what the story behind it is, and who the participants are in the match, as with any match. Similar to Fuck, Marry, or Kill, who would you job to, team with, or bury? Rey Mysterio, Kofi Kingston, or John Cena? Well, let's see. I would team with John Cena because I would know I was going to win. That's a pretty simple and selfish answer. Who would I job to? Kofi Kingston. I'd be okay with that. Who would I bury? Rey fucking Mysterio out of those three. Interesting question. I love the fuck, marry, kill things that you see on Facebook all the time are kind of ridiculous. But, you know, job, team with, or bury is a nice thing there. And if you want to throw more scenarios like that at me next time I do a Q&A, I would not mind that whatsoever. Considering several great wrestlers have hailed from your neck of the woods, do you think there should be a Canadian championship? No. I really don't. I don't think there should be a U.S. championship. Not that I think the U.S. championship doesn't have merit, but how it's identified. There's no reason, nothing associating the U.S. championship with the U.S. I mean, I'm pretty sure people that are not American have held the U.S. championship. People that were not European held the European championship. I don't understand associating a championship with areas. If you are the heavyweight championship, you are the best big guy. If you are the light heavyweight champion, you are the best light guy. If you are the women's champion or divas champion, you are the best woman. If you are the tag team champions, you are the best tag team. The U.S. championship does not mean you're the best guy in the U.S. because there's a bazillion other countries out there, and that all that does is open you up to claims of well, I'm not from the U.S. I'm better than you. I wouldn't want there to be a Canadian title. For those of you that remember the WCW days when Team Canada won all the belts and Lance Storm turned all the titles into Canadian titles, I thought that was a fucking joke. I thought for somebody that was so well respected like Lance Storm, and I'm going on a bit of a tangent for a second, for a talent as great as Lance Storm, as respected as he was to pull off something that goofy, just to go on a Bret Hart-esque pro-Canada kick was absolutely ridiculous. So no, I don't think there should be a Canadian champion. Canadians have a great history in wrestling, for sure. The Hart family, you know, Gail Kim, Trish Stratus, Edge, Christian, Chris Benoit, Jericho, Bobby Roode, Eric Young, Petey Williams. There's a lot of great Canadian wrestlers, but let them go for a world title. They don't deserve to be like shoved off in a little bubble because they're Canadian. Let them go for the big gold. And like I say, conversely, anybody outside of Canada competing for the Canadian title would be dumb. I don't mean to disrespect your question by any stretch of the imagination, but I really don't agree. I really don't agree. I think they should not get rid of the U.S. title, but they should call the U.S. title something else, because it's really got nothing to do with Americana, unless they want to play up giving it to Jack Swagger and, the real American or something like that. How would you revive the Cruiserweight Championship title? Assemble all the Cruiserweights. I did a video like this a little while ago, because there's more people than you think that fall under the definition of Cruiserweight in the WWE than most people realize. I would either have Rey Mysterio come out, cut a promo about his retirement, cut a promo about how some of his greatest matches were in WCW over the Cruiserweight Championship, and his last gift to the WWE is he wants to recreate the Cruiserweight Championship. He'll announce a battle royal or a tournament or something. Either that, or run a storyline where you have a bunch of pissed off little guys that are all pissed off that they don't have a championship to really represent them. Have a team of little guys versus a team of big guys, where the stakes are, if the little guys win, then they get to create for themselves a Cruiserweight Championship to work towards. Those are two storylines that I think could not only do it, but put meaning behind the creation of it. When Stephanie McMahon brought in the U.S. Championship, she just said, hey, here's a U.S. Championship. Same thing when they created the Divas Championship. They didn't really have a reason for making another one other than the other brand needed a title. They just said, hey, here's a title. When they created a second set of tag team championships, they just said, hey, here's a title. If Rey Mysterio leaves the WWE and his last gift to the WWE is creating a Cruiserweight division, that's great. If the Cruiserweights among themselves say, hey, we are new, we are different enough, we've seen other companies, if somebody could cut a great promo, like, we've seen other great companies where guys like us get the gold and the recognition we deserve, let us fight for it. There's a good story there. Right off the bat, you're invested not only in the competitors in the match, but the crowd is invested in the significance and the existence of that title. There's a reason for it to exist, right? Right. And he just says, hashtag bring back the Cruiserweight belt, which I definitely agree. Especially now, since they only have 5 active belts, do you think the WWE should get rid of the Night of Champions pay-per-view? Not necessarily. Because it's been said a million times in the WWE, if you're not here to win a title, you shouldn't be here. There are other things that can happen, title-related, at the Night of Champions. You could recreate the King of the Ring tournament and have the finals of that tournament at the Night of Champions, because you could be the King of the Ring could be considered a one-night championship, couldn't it? You could scrap the I can't speak tonight, guys. This is just a thing. You could scrap the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, seeing as there's only one title now, there'll only be one Money in the Bank match. You could have the Money in the Bank match at Night of Champions, because it has championship ramification. You could always have #1 contenders matches at Night of Champions, as well as your 5 title matches. And going back to my first question of the night from Jordan, you could represent NXT. This would be the prime time to let the NXT characters, or sorry, NXT superstars, heels, villains, champions, etc., have some shine on a pay-per-view. Whereas, again, they could have, like I said with the Cruiserweights a second ago, they could walk onto Raw a couple weeks before Night of Champions, challenge Triple H, or challenge Stephanie, or challenge one of the GMs, or challenge Kane, who's the director of operations or whatever, and say, hey, you've got Night of Champions. Like, if the Ascension and Adrian Neville and Paige walked up to Kane and said, you've got Night of Champions coming up, we're fucking champions, we're coming to the show. How fantastic would that be? Not only for the diversity of the show, not only for those stars that are going to be on the main roster one day, but for NXT as a whole. I don't think you should scrap Night of Champions at all. I think there's so much more that you could do with the Night of Champions pay-per-view now that you couldn't do before, because there were too many belts that weren't necessary. I don't think us being down to 5 titles is bad. Honestly, they say unify the 2 mid-card titles, and I can't help but agree, because the US title, other than the fact that it's on Dean Ambrose, who's awesome, but not defending it, US title doesn't mean fuck all. Unify it with the Intercontinental Championship, call it the undisputed mid-card title, or bring it down to 4. So that you have those other options. Have #1 contenders matches. Have the Money in the Bank, or at least have somebody defend their Money in the Bank briefcase at the Night of Champions. Let the NXT champions, let the NXT World Heavyweight Champion, the NXT Women's Champion, and the NXT Tag Champions defend their gold on a pay-per-view stage. It will be a test paper for them, will it not? Well, it will be the what's the phrase? The litmus test for those guys. See if they can shine on a big stage before you even bring them up to the Raw roster. Because if the worst thing that could happen is they try and fail, and they've already got the built-in excuse of their newbies, they're young guys, and if they fail, they don't go to the main roster right away. If they fail, you could always have them getting ribbed by like bullies from the main roster that will only build their characters later on down the line. A million things you could do with the Night of Champions concept. Do not get rid of it. It's one of the few themed pay-per-views that I actually think needs to stay. Which homegrown WWE wrestlers, past or present, do you think would have fit in the original ECW? Wow. The name that comes to mind right off the bat is CM Punk. Problem with ECW, and I didn't watch a lot of it, I will be completely honest. I know there was a lot of fantastic wrestling, especially on the luchador side of things. Immediately you hear ECW, you think hardcore matches. And WWE as a whole right now, because they're a PG product, don't allow those people that would be good at hardcore matches to show it. I gotta say, I'll bring it down to 4. I'll go 5. Bryan, Punk, Ambrose, Rollins, and Wyatt. There you go. With the Superman comparisons between John Cena and... Sorry, I lost my place. Sorry, guys. With the Superman comparisons towards John Cena, comprise your own Justice League of wrestlers. Who's Batman, who's the Flash, who's Wonder Woman, etc. I don't know a lot about Justice League, but I don't know. Batman would be CM Punk. Flash would be, I guess, somebody fast. I'd say Justin Gabriel, maybe. Maybe Sin Cara. Wonder Woman would be somebody like Caitlyn if she was still in the WWE. Joker would be Dean Ambrose for sure. Sorry. Again, not that I'm disallowing the question or saying that it doesn't have merit. I don't know enough about Justice League as a whole to make any more random comparisons than that. I think Batman is the name that you've got listed there. That's CM Punk, but I would more compare CM Punk to somebody like Iron Man, just attitude-wise, you know, especially in the more recent movies. Do you think Randy Orton should stop carrying around the big gold belt? Seriously, him having that thing makes me think they're going to split the world titles again. Yes. Yes. When they unified the titles, they needed to either go down to one, either create a new belt and get rid of both of them, or they need to just let it be the WWE Championship. I know they're saying already that they don't like the new WWE title, the one that they got from Orange County Choppers, which should have been your first clue. Yeah, him carrying around 2 championships, yeah, it just makes it more and more realistic that they're going to somewhat separate the belts somewhere down the line. I definitely agree. Laurel Lewis, another guy that's contributed to a lot of my Q&A. Do you think a good main event for SummerSlam could be Daniel Bryan versus Brock Lesnar? Obviously. Obviously. Brock Lesnar... Am I buzzing, really? Is this a thing? Anyways, sorry about that, guys. I'm buzzing, apparently. Daniel Bryan versus Brock could be amazing. They're both technically gifted. Brock Lesnar could be the Beast, and Daniel Bryan could play the Giant Slayer type character. The match that I really want to see, ironically enough, and nobody really agrees with me, or at least nobody that's vocal has agreed with me, the match that I really want to see is Alberto Del Rio versus Brock Lesnar, but that's just because of the mutual MMA background. If you had to pick a time for Paige to come to the main roster, when would it be? I tell you exactly when it would be. I would have her be the surprise 15th entrant in the Vicky Guerrero Battle Royal. Or, sorry, the Vicky Guerrero Divas Championship Invitational. How I would have this play out. I read this question before, and I did a little bit of fantasy booking in my head, as I am known to do. If this match was an elimination match, I would have it so that my girl AJ Lee triumphed over everybody. So she'd be like absolutely ragdolled in the center of the ring. She'd be the only one left. And then Vicky Guerrero would come out and with a big smirk and a smile on her face and say, I have one more surprise for you. Here's the NXT Women's Champion, Paige. Paige comes out, hits the Paige Turner, everybody goes nuts. Paige has an Ultimate Warrior 2 belts moment where she holds up the NXT and the Divas Championship on the turnbuckles. She has her big introduction to the main roster at WrestleMania, goes to NXT the following Thursday, has a farewell speech to the NXT crowd, thanks for all your support, yada yada yada, humbly forfeits the NXT Women's Championship back to NXT so that they can find a new champion, continues on to Raw to have a crazy versus crazy feud with AJ Lee. There you go. Who do you think will become the champion first, Bray Wyatt or a member of the Shield? Oh, I really, really want to say Wyatt, but knowing WWE the way they do, it's gonna be Roman Reigns, isn't it? He's I don't want to go the political route and say, oh, it's because he's related to The Rock, but he's just that guy. He's just that big, you know, the quintessential 6'5", 275 guy, chiseled out of granite, powerhouse, looks unstoppable. And I'd much rather see him behind the wheel of that steamroller than John Cena. I would have no problem if 5 years down the road, the main event of WrestleMania was Roman Reigns versus Bray Wyatt versus Cesaro for a world championship. I really wouldn't whatsoever. Thank you for that. James Russell, otherwise known as Fear the Spear 1990, my resident John Cena fan. Do you see any chance of CM Punk returning, and what are your thoughts on a storyline of a legit walkout? This kind of taps into the idea that even if they do get CM Punk to come back, they're going to make his walkout part of a storyline. Honestly, if they were going to do that, I think it would be great for him to interfere in the main event. I have a sneaky suspicion that the main event of WrestleMania is going to end up being a Fatal 4-Way instead of a Triple Threat match. Because Fatal 4-Way would be no disqualification, CM Punk could come in, lay out everybody with chairs, high-five Daniel Bryan, and then they can go on and feud for the belt for a while. Play it off like, oh, okay, these are the two biggest thorns in Triple H's side. He's going to let them battle until they take each other out, and then he can put one of his corporate champs back in the limelight. Or something to that effect. Whether it's going to happen, I don't know. It's really unfortunate because, especially with the rumored announcement recently that AJ Lee and CM Punk are engaged, I really hope WWE doesn't go the shitty political route and start burying AJ by association, which it looks like they're already doing, because there's no way... Doesn't look good for AJ at WrestleMania, does it? No. WCW had missed the opportunity with Goldberg versus the Ultimate Warrior. It's a dream match that never happened. Who do you think would win if that happened in WCW and WWE? What? That never happened. Who do you think would win if it happened in WCW and in WWE at this year's WrestleMania? Warrior's looking old. Warrior's looking old. He's going into the Hall of Fame, and Goldberg won't come back because they're not going to pay him enough money. So it's not going to happen. I'm sorry. At this point, I really want to think that like Goldberg would hit him with a spear and he'd be space dust. Like, I'm not trying to be an asshole when I say that, but it's true. Lesnar's contract expires sometime after WrestleMania 31. Do you think we could get Lesnar versus Batista on the WrestleMania stage? If so, who would you pick to win the match between these two behemoths? At this point, no matter how much work Paul Heyman puts into Brock Lesnar, if he goes up against Batista, the way people think about Batista these days, he's going to be the face. Brock Lesnar will be the babyface in that match, unless Batista makes a 180-degree turnaround. Easily, Brock Lesnar takes out Batista. Brock Lesnar's huger than Batista. And Brock Lesnar, you know, if you want to go real world, Brock Lesnar was a hell of a lot more successful in MMA than Batista was. Just saying. The 733-ism. If you could change Undertaker's WrestleMania 11 opponent to anybody you want, who would it be, and who would you change it to? You know what? I'm shitty. on dates and stuff. If you want guys that can tell you on this day, this guy fought this guy for this championship in this arena, in this city, this guy was wearing this guy was wearing this, and this guy had a tuna sandwich for lunch, you want to talk to guys like Alex and Preston from Wrestling Paradise. Even, I hate to give TwitWow credit, even if you talk to somebody like John from TwitWow, he's one of those guys that can pull out those types of things. Off the top of my head, I don't even remember who Undertaker faced at WrestleMania 11, so I'm sorry. I like the effect of doing these questions off the cuff, so questions like this that involve a little bit more research. I also couldn't tell you right at the year of WrestleMania 11 who was around, so I'm not prepared for that question. Be the booker of War Games at WrestleMania 30. The Ministry of Darkness, Undertaker, Big Show, Mideon, Viscera, and the Acolytes versus The Brood, Edge, Christian, Gangrel, Jeff Hardy, and Matt Hardy. First of all, that's 6-on-5. Second of all, I don't know what you mean by be the booker, because you've just booked a pretty dark, awesome-sounding clusterfuck of a match. I don't know what I can do to that. Do you want me to tell you who I think would win? Like, all my favorites, other than The Undertaker, are on one team. So, obviously, I'm going to say the Brood's going to win that. But other than that, I don't know what to say. Ryback versus Bill Goldberg at WrestleMania 30 in a fully barbed... What the hell? Ryback versus Bill Goldberg at WrestleMania 30 in a full barbed wire cage heat steel cage match. Are you asking me who I think would win? Who I would want to win? How I would book it? Like, I don't know what you're asking me there. I'm going to say Goldberg to win because I don't like Ryback. I don't... Again, you've got great ideas there, but I'm sorry. I'm not quite sure what your question is, if I'm perfectly honest. Abel Herrera, and here's where my shout out even to Puitov, Pro Wrestling is Taking Over Facebook, comes in. Guys, I'm going to put the link down in the description box below. Check out Puitov if you're not already on one of my groups. Abel and his friends over there are another fantastic group. He sent me some questions. Does Bray Wyatt need to win at WrestleMania 30, or is a strong performance against Cena, even in defeat, be enough to... I really can't read tonight, guys. Or will a strong performance against Cena, even in defeat, be enough for Bray to maintain his momentum? Like I said before with the psychology of the match, Bray Wyatt has never made winning the match his objective. His psychology is he wants to ruin the legend of John Cena. He wants to ruin the iconic nature of John Cena. He wants to destroy John Cena. He wants to beat him within an inch of his life. The psychology going in doesn't revolve around a pinfall. Obviously, I want him to win. I think he deserves to win. He's been doing fantastic work in the short time that he's been in the WWE. But I think if you ask Bray Wyatt, even if he gets pinned, he hasn't been defeated. Because I think, in his mind, to beat him, John Cena will have to go to deep and dark places that John Cena doesn't want to admit that he has. Like, you know, destroy the good guy mentality. We were talking about comic books earlier. If you look at the Harvey Dent in Dark Knight, not the Dark Knight Rises, the actual, just the Dark Knight, Joker talking about Two-Face said, I didn't risk Gotham in a fist fight on a rooftop with you. I risked it by ruining their hero. When I show them who their hero really is, then they will really lose all hope. And that's literally what Bray Wyatt is doing to John Cena. So I don't think winning or losing is on Bray Wyatt's spectrum. Or at least that's the brilliant way it's been portrayed. How will you react if Rusev wins the Andre Battle Royal? I'd be like, okay, good for you. I won't even be as excited as I was for Fandango beating Jericho last year, because you guys know I'm not a fan of big guys, and if Rusev wins, then okay, he won a Battle Royal because he's big. And then he'll go back to NXT and go back to cutting promos on SmackDown that aren't in English that I don't understand. I won't be excited, for sure. I'd be much more excited if somebody like Adrian Neville from NXT goes in there, or even a Corey Graves or a Sami Zayn, guys that are exciting, guys that I am invested in on NXT, because Rusev I'm not invested in. And like I say, sorry guys, you know, itchy nose. I'm not invested in, there's nothing for me to invest in. with Rusev. So I don't. If he wins, I'm not going to care. If he wins, I'm going to wish that somebody that I care about had won. Is that fair? I will be angry, but I won't be angry about anything to do with his character. I'll be angry that somebody I don't care won. Besides title unification, what matches would I have had for the Intercontinental and U.S. Championships? I wouldn't have given us the bullshit six-man tag that we're getting. I would have had the Shield properly break up, have Roman and Rollins go on as face individual competitors that both want Dean Ambrose's title. You could play it up like, hey, you had that title so long only because we backed you up. Where were you to back us up when we lost our tag team championships? Something along those lines. For the Intercontinental Championship, it looks like they're building towards, after WrestleMania, a feud between Big E and Alberto Del Rio, which I wouldn't have minded them doing a little bit earlier and having at WrestleMania. The problem with the Andre Battle Royal, and I'm going to get into this again when we get to the predictions part of this video. The problem with the Andre Battle Royal is it's supposed to be this big, gigantic, meaningful thing. Hogan paying tribute to his fallen friend, paying tribute to everything that he meant to WrestleMania. But really what the Andre Battle Royal is, and I'm sorry to say this, is we've got a bunch of awesome mid-carders that we don't want to bother writing for, so we're just going to throw them in here. And that's sad. I'm not invested in the Andre Battle Royal as a whole, because even the winner gets to walk around with a trophy, but what does it get them in the future? It's not like the Royal Rumble where you win it and then you go on to get a title shot. I mean, somebody like Damian Sandow, somebody like Justin Gabriel, somebody like the members of 3MB, we're not even supposed to believe that if they win this that they're getting anything, because they're just not. They're getting a gold statue of Andre the Giant, and that's great and everything, and it's great to pay respects to the past, which is why I don't have a problem with Hogan being part of WrestleMania. I'm glad he's not in a match, but you know what, for that little bit of nostalgia and for that little bit of it's wrestling. Holy crap, why is my nose so itchy? I swear to God, guys, I'm not on drugs. For them to be paying tribute to the past by having Hogan there, by paying tribute to Andre, by having Piper on Raw doing Piper's Pit to build up this match, I wish I cared more. Again, it's like Rusev winning. I wouldn't care, and that would be the most frustrating part. That's all I got. Thank you, Abel, for those. Everybody go check out Puitov. T-Rex 1028. Yo, SP. I guess that's my new nickname. That's my equivalent of JBL. If you could reconstruct the build of the 4 main events for WrestleMania 30, considering, if you consider Bryan beating Triple H and going on to the Triple Threat match, starting with the opening of the Royal Rumble, how would you have booked everything? Okay, I would not have pissed off CM Punk enough to leave. CM Punk would be the champion. CM Punk would have been in a triple threat with Orton and Cena to win the championship. He would carry the championship into Mania. Bryan would have won the Royal Rumble. We would have gotten the main event that we all wanted, Bryan versus CM Punk for the unified title. In the Royal Rumble match, Batista and Lesnar would have eliminated each other. We would have had the Animal versus the Beast, which is the match that Paul Heyman teased a while ago. Instead of beating down John Cena, the Wyatt family, upon Undertaker's return, would have taken out the Wyatt family. They could have even said something as similar as, hey, we just defeated the Shield, and last year the Shield showed us how easy it was to take out the dead man. Now it's our turn. Now it's my time to grasp immortality, and I'm going to start with the streak. There you go. Punk versus Bryan, Batista versus Lesnar, Bray Wyatt versus The Undertaker, John Cena versus Orton, I guess. Yeah, Orton versus Cena one more time, Wyatt versus Undertaker, Daniel Bryan versus CM Punk, and Batista versus Brock Lesnar. How does that sound? Does that sound good? Does that? And I've given you a little bit of an idea of how I would have gotten there. We could have done that. We had all the pieces going into the Royal Rumble. Punk was still in the company at the time. He left the Raw after the Royal Rumble. Going into the Royal Rumble, we had all the pieces to make those exact things happen, and we just got other stuff instead. Again, I'll get into that in my preview. T-Rex 1028, again, in your objective opinion, do you feel Randy Orton versus Batista could have been a suitable main event for WrestleMania 30? If not, who would you have had compete for the titles in place of these two? I just answered that in the previous question. I would have had Punk versus Bryan, no questions asked. It's hard because you're saying, would it be a suitable main event if they had just left it as Randy Orton versus Batista for the title? They could have left Randy Orton versus Batista as the title match, and it just wouldn't have been the main event. That's the thing. If Randy Orton and Batista, if they had left that match the way it was, which I truly believe they should have, with the things they put in place, Orton's the champion, Batista won the Rumble. That should be your title match. I've done this. Go back a couple of videos. I ranted on this. But WrestleMania in the past little while, look at Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker, look at The Rock versus John Cena, round 1. They've proven to us that the title match is not always the main event. Should it be? Yes. But, I mean, if you had Batista versus Randy Orton straight up one-on-one in a regular match, that would not have been the main event of WrestleMania. I could see even Cena and Wyatt going on after that. I could see definitely Brock versus Taker going on after that, and Triple H versus Daniel Bryan. If Triple H versus Daniel Bryan had main evented the show, that would have been enough for Daniel Bryan. The way they're overbooking Daniel Bryan now pisses me off, as you guys know. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with Orton versus Batista. The crowd shit on it because it wasn't Daniel Bryan. That's it. And the thing is, like I say, and like I'm rambling on now, I'm beating it like a dead horse. But the if it had been just those two for the title, it wouldn't have been the main event, so it wouldn't have mattered. Repeated the same question. Be the Booker, Part 2. I don't know what you mean by Part 2 for WrestleMania. The Usos versus the Real Americans versus Ryback versus the Wyatt family in a fatal 4-way last team standing match. See, that's hard, because I really want the Real Americans to come out strong. Useless, the Usos, with the titles. Yeah, they deserve to have a long title run, but considering who they're up against, I can't say my weight would be behind them. I would have the Usos get the quick win over Ryback. They would celebrate too much. The Real Americans would use some cheating means to get over them. The Wyatt family would then, with Bray Wyatt's help, because, Fatal 4-Ways have no disqualifications, Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family would 3-on-2 the Real Americans. The Real Americans would be robbed. The Real Americans would get face sympathy. They would turn face. The Wyatt family would then leave WrestleMania with the Tag Team Championships. They would carry that momentum. Wyatt would beat Cena, and the next night on Raw, you would see a feud start between a face Real Americans, and along with Zeb Coulter, versus the heel Wyatt family along with the Wyatts. That could be a great match going into the sort of the slump season after WrestleMania. That's how I would book that. Last question. If you could change any WrestleMania main event, which one would it be? What would be your replacement? And I've already answered that question. It's kind of a repeat. It's kind of a very generic repeat of some of the other questions I've already answered. But I will say thank you to High Tide C22 for that question. And with that, at the grand old marker of I don't even know what, because my counter just reset itself. That is this year's WrestleMania Q&A, guys. Thank you very much. I'm going to have a nice long glass of water, and I'll be back in a moment with my predictions for WrestleMania 30. Ciao for now. And we're back one more time, guys. Got a drink, almost losing my voice. Going to try and get through the WrestleMania predictions fairly quickly, but got to give you my 2 cents. Like I say, last bump on the road, last twist in the road. This is the end of the road to WrestleMania. After this, I say Auf Wiedersehen to all of you guys until after I get back from the States, after I get back from WrestleMania. I don't know when you're going to get a WrestleMania review or a Raw review, for that matter, from me. But you know what? If I cross all my fingers, I may not be alone, which means you don't get to see my pretty sexy face. You guys know the drill. Now, WrestleMania. Shield versus Kane and the New Age Outlaws. Match that has no business happening. Match that has no real reason to happen other than New Age Outlaws going to the office and saying, we want to work with the Shield before you break them up. By all intents and purposes, like I said in the previous section, this should have been a Shield triple threat match for the U.S. Championship. Could have done wonders for all three guys involved. Could have done wonders for the U.S. Championship for that matter, but why would you want to defend a mid-card title at WrestleMania? Oh, how many mid-card titles are we defending at WrestleMania on the actual card? 1, and it's the Divas title? Oh, yes. Shield are great. They're going to do what they can. It's the Shield versus Team Old Man. I mean, Kane, who is Undertaker's bad, shitty clone at best, and the New Age Outlaws, who you guys know I'm a ridiculous fan of, but I don't want to see them corporate, and they're fucking old, and I hate to admit it, but it's true, is it not? Shield are going to win this. Shield better win this. Everybody's saying this is where they're going to break up. That's crap. New Age Outlaws and Kane do not need a victory over the Shield. That's a barrel. Even if you do a breakup angle right in the middle of WrestleMania, that is crap. Nobody wants to see that happen. This match, as much as it pains me to say this because I love the Shield, this match should be the one that's on the pre-show. Just putting it out there. What is on the pre-show is the Tag Team Championship match because, you know, again, we don't want to defend titles on the main card. That would be silly. Usos versus Ryback versus Los Matadors versus Real Americans. Los Matadors do not belong in this match. Los Matadors, I'm sorry, do not belong at WrestleMania. As I've said a million times before, throw the Wyatts into this match. Even if they don't win, let them get some prominent spot at WrestleMania. Give Bray Wyatt some momentum going into his match against Cena. What better way to send Bray Wyatt into his match against the Golden Boy than to say, look, my boys just got gold, now I'm going for the Golden Idol. But no, WWE's do that. Usos are great champions, like I said, again, in the previous section. I'm happy that they've had a run with the belts, but I'm sorry, the Real Americans are just better. Ryback is garbage. Ryback is the Heyman guys without Heyman. Yeah, let that sink in for a second. That is all they are. Heyman guys were Lesnar and Punk. Punk left and Lesnar was gone for a while. Now that team has downsized to Little Perfect and the big guy. Real Americans are boss. Swagger's stepped up his game enough that he's tolerable on my television screen, and Cesaro is just a boss. I was down in Boston at the Garden with my former No Holds Barred show co-host Steffi Sunshine for Survivor Series. And yes, I know a lot of people like to shit on that card. I had a great time. Cesaro doing the swing on the Usos was fantastic then. It'll be fantastic now in front of a WrestleMania crowd, will it not? Oh yes. The Real Americans are the only people that actually should win this match. Los Matadors need to get taken out by some other team on the way to the ring, a la Edge taking out Kofi Kingston at the Elimination Chamber. Just saying. Now, the Vicky Guerrero Divas Championship Invitational, which would be cool and would have been able to use my ridiculously awesome fantasy booking from the last segment if it was an elimination match. It is one fall. This is how they are going to fuck over AJ Lee out of the WWE Divas Championship, is it not? I would love AJ to win. It's not going to happen. There's people that I could tolerate winning this. Summer Rae I could tolerate because she's great. Emma I could tolerate because she's great. Brie Bella has gotten better. I'd be okay with that. The Funkadactyls, Nikki Bella, Eva Marie, Alicia Fox, Oksana. Just no. Natalya, I'm sorry. Yes, she comes from a great wrestling family, but unless she's got somebody that's as strong as her in the ring, she's boring to watch, and I don't have a single scrap of a reason to give a fuck about her. I really, really don't. Sasha Banks, I think, is in this match. Rosa Mendez, and when was the last time we saw Rosa Mendez? I'm just saying. But anyways, more positive things. We're getting a lot of NXT representation. Like I say, it would be awesome if we had Paige in this match. But if we had Paige in this match, it would be AJ, Paige, and a bunch of other people that don't matter. Again, would it not? I don't want to make a prediction for this because I want AJ to win, and I don't think she's going to. If they give it to Tamina or Natalya, I'm giving up on the division for a while until Paige comes up. That's it. The Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. Participants announced so far: Rey Mysterio, Zack Ryder, Sin Cara, Great Khali, Darren Young, Brodus Clay, Justin Gabriel, R-Truth, Santino Marella, Mark Henry, Kofi Kingston, Christian, Cody Rhodes, Goldust, Sheamus, Jinder Mahal, Heath Slater, Drew McIntyre, Fandango, Dolph Ziggler, The Miz, Damian Sandow, Titus O'Neil, Biggie Langston, Alberto Del Rio, and The Big Show. They've been really pumping the obvious guy to win this, which is The Big Show. I hope he doesn't. Same thing as Rusev. I really hope he doesn't. I I want somebody to win this that deserves it, that has been buried, that has been overlooked for a while. I want a Ziggler to win this. I want a Cody Rhodes to win this, a Damian Sandow to win this. I want The Miz to win this just so I can stick it down Mark Pearson's throat, but if he doesn't, it's not going to break my heart. Just somebody that's going to do something with it. Justin Gabriel, would that not be a great way for him to come back to the main roster? Sin Cara, now that it's not somebody that's going to botch. I swear if Rey Mysterio wins this, I'm going to vomit. Like, this is a thing. Darren Young, no. Modus Clay, no. R-Truth, no. Santino Marella, hell no. Mark Henry, I'd be okay with it. Kofi Kingston, I could swallow. Christian, there's no reason to give it to him. Cody Rhodes, yes. Goldust, no. Sheamus has been handed way too much in his career already. Jinder Mahal, no. Heath Slater, no. Drew McIntyre, maybe. Fandango, maybe. Dolph Ziggler, absolutely. The Miz, absolutely. Damian Sandow, sure, I would accept it. It would be a good upward trajectory for him. Titus O'Neil, hell fucking no. Biggie Langston already has the Intercontinental Championship to defend. Alberto Del Rio would be a great winner, and Big Show, hell fucking no. So there you go. John Cena versus Bray Wyatt. Wyatt should win this. Everything points to Bray Wyatt should win this. But it's the Cena Steamroller. Let's see how long Bray Wyatt can stay standing. Want Bray Wyatt. I'm predicting big John Cena, unfortunately. Undertaker versus Brock Lesnar isn't even a thing. There's no build behind it. Brock Lesnar's part-time, Undertaker's part-time, and it's the streak, so Undertaker's going to win. Fan-fucking-tastic. Daniel Bryan versus Triple H, the part one of the two-part overbooking of Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan's going to win this. Daniel Bryan's going to win this. Like, it's going to be a thing. Daniel Bryan is going to win this. He's going to get a bullshit, overbooked, ridiculous victory over Triple H. Either that, or the other idea that's been kicked around is that Triple H will win this by scheming means, and Hogan will come out at the last minute for the main event and insert Daniel Bryan anyway, making it a fatal four-way match, which would only perpetuate the Daniel Bryan bullshit, would it not? Oh yes. Randy Orton versus Batista versus to be announced, which is going to be Daniel Bryan, and the winner is going to be Daniel Bryan, because they are going to have Daniel Bryan win because they don't want WrestleMania to be booed out of the building. That is a thing. Triple H, I don't know. Daniel Bryan did not win the Royal Rumble, and he's not the champion. He should not be in the championship match. Period. If he gets a big win at WrestleMania over Triple H, that's fucking enough. Honestly, I really hope Randy Orton wins this. Like, my honest, like, fan reaction is I want Randy Orton to win this. My knee-jerk... how can I say this? My knee-jerk vindictive reaction towards all the Daniel Bryan butthurt yes movement, you know, tunnel vision fans, is I hope Batista walks away with the belt. Yes, I do. I don't really mean that, but oh my god. For the obnoxiousness that spews from the mouth of almost every Daniel Bryan fan I know, I want Batista, the worst case scenario of this entire match, to win, just so that I control the fuck out of all of you. I'm just saying. Daniel Bryan versus Triple H is going to be a great match, and Daniel Bryan will do great in both matches. I just think he's been overbooked to hell, and it's crap. So yeah. Daniel Bryan, Undertaker, John Cena, unfortunately. Somebody good to win the Battle Royal. Somebody good to win the Divas Championship. Real Americans to win the tag titles, and the Shield to dominate the old men. This is kind of a small card, which is bad in one sense because it means there's not very many stories going into WrestleMania, but it's good in the sense that it means all of these matches are going to get a decent amount of time. And I hope that's the case, rather than us getting some bullshit music presentations or some bullshit like 20-minute Hulk Hogan talking spot off the top. If Hulk Hogan costs Bray Wyatt his match against John Cena, that's gonna be fucking bullshit. If Hulk Hogan comes down, if Triple H beats Daniel Bryan and Hulk Hogan gets involved in the main event and inserts Daniel Bryan anyway, which is heavily rumored, that will also be bullshit. And it'll be even worse bullshit than when The Rock interfered in Miz versus Cena, because at least Cena could go then after The Rock, semi-convincingly anyway. But I mean, if Hogan screws over Triple H, Batista, Randy Orton, and the Wyatt family, None of them are going to have a match with him. I'm sorry, like I said in the last segment, guys, I appreciate the nostalgia factor. You know, let Hogan come out. If all Hulk Hogan does at WrestleMania is come out and introduce the Andre Battle Royal and fuck off, I'll be happy. If he takes up any more time than that, I'm going to say it's time to move on, old man. Now, we do, of course, have the Hall of Fame ceremony. Paul Bearer, awesome. Lita, awesome. Warrior, awesome. Jake the Snake Roberts, awesome. Carlos Colon, awesome for some people, I guess, but I don't know anything about him. Razor Ramon going in as Razor Ramon and not Scott Hall because they plan on doing the NWO later is kind of weird, but in the same vein, if he ends up with 2 Hall of Fame rings at the end of the day, there's nothing really to complain about there. Is there? This is it. Guys, this has been awesome. Thank you for following the Road Signs 2014 series. It's been great. I love the feedback. I'm going to be coming back to you guys after WrestleMania asking what you want this channel to be going forward. I kind of like this idea of not really doing a Raw review or a SmackDown review or a da-da-da-da review. And just going more like once a week, this is what's going on, this is what I think of it. Do you guys prefer that format more? Do you want me to go back to the more structured Raw reviews? Do you want me to do random ass topical reviews? I'll get more into detail with that when I start making videos again next week. I don't know when that will be. I don't know when you are going to get your WrestleMania and Raw reactions from me, because I'm not going to even be back in Canada until Wednesday. So don't expect anything from me until the tail end of next week at the earliest. But as I've said, thank you to everybody that contributed to the Q&A. Thank you for everybody that has responded and asked for the return of the Road Signs series. It's been fantastic. It's been a hell of a controversial, bumpy road to WrestleMania, but it's been a lot of fun. I'm glad for all you guys that have come along on it with me. And everybody, let's just have a fucking fantastic time on Sunday and not think about it too much. Have a good one. I've been Spaz, your YWC Reality Check. Subscribe down there. Subscribe down there. Talk down there. Start a conversation. Keep all my conversations going. Get your last thoughts in before WrestleMania. Don't be a stranger. I'll talk to each and every one of you after WrestleMania, but for right now, I'm tagging out. Bye, guys.
You're a freak like me.